We have today, April 3rd, spreadsheet for the 5-game NHL slate on Draftkings tonight. This video is going to be a little bit longer than normal because I'm also going to talk about where these stats and where this data comes from in my model, and then go over a couple of new categories I've added to help kind of aggregate one number that we can use to kind of figure out which teams are in good spots to target for fantasy purposes. And then we'll go through the top stacks, some cheap defensemen that I think are good targets tonight. So starting with the new categories I've added. For each game, I've added their high danger chances for per game, their projected high danger chances, which we'll go over how I got that information, and then a targetability score, which is the one score I was talking about that we can kind of look at and say the higher the number, the better, in theory, the offensive spot for the team that night. So starting with where I got all these basic numbers that have been here, these come from a couple of websites. I have this, I can't remember where I got this from. I just end up searching for advanced stats, NHL advanced stats, and found a way to export the data, and then it has literally all the advanced team stats you could want. I mean, tons of stuff here. And then I drilled down to the stuff I really cared about, which was the high danger chances and the expected goals against. And then I used that data to divide it by how many games they've played in column C here to make these three columns, D, E, and F, to get their per game numbers that then populate in the other tab on the spreadsheet here. So that's where I got this information. There's a lot more here that's available to you if you want to look at it, but it's really overwhelming, and so that's why I pulled out just the stuff that I think is most useful for determining fantasy relevance, the high danger chances, and the expected goals against. And then that information alone comes over here. So that's where these two, row 6 and row 7, come from. The goalie stats came from Quant Hockey here. And again, I exported their table from their website. But I limited it to, I believe, the second week in March. So the data is only from the second week in March on, because I'm looking for the recent production from the goalies, as goalies can go through hot streaks and cold streaks. And we want to look at how they're playing currently, not someone that had a really great October, November, and has fallen off since. So you can see the most games played, Charlie Lindgren's played 8. For most of the goalies, at least your regular starters, it's going to be between 4 and 7 games that we're looking at for their goalie stats. And that's where those two columns of information come from. Then we get into some of the new stuff we've added here. The projected high danger chances. I'm taking the high danger chances for that team, comparing it, I'm adding the high danger chances against from their opponents, but then to calculate for the average, so you're not just averaging out these two numbers, we add those two together, then we subtract the average for the league. So, and that came from right here. So the league as an average allows 11.95 essentially high danger chances against per game. So we add the high danger chances for, the opponent's high danger chances allowed, and then subtract the league average to get their projected high danger chances for tonight's game. And then this targetability score combines pretty much everything. The goalie stats, the expected goals, well, I guess their opponent's expected goals and the opponent's goalie stats, and then their own high danger chances. And you can see it's taking the high danger chances, adding in the goalie's 2-week goals against average, and then I used 14 as kind of the starting point, so we can get roughly 3 to 4 as the raw number that we're adding to a total. So starting with 14 and subtracting the save percentage multiplied by 10. So the higher the save percentage, the more you're taking away, the fewer points get added to the targetability score. Whereas if you're lower save percentage, you're getting more points added, and again, higher is better. So we're looking for teams with high scores in targetability, and then finally we're adding in the expected goals against of their opponent. Combine all that, and you get a targetability score in the bottom column in each game's matchup. So tonight, the clear top targets are going to be Vancouver going against Connor Ingram in Arizona. Ingram's not confirmed. I believe he's just likely to start. But if we get word that it's Vejmelka or someone else, then I'll update the model, and that'll change the goalie stats. It'll change the targetability score, but I don't think it matters who starts for Arizona. Vancouver is going to look really good because Arizona is just a bad team. So Vancouver looks like the top offensive option to target tonight. And then we've got Toronto and New Jersey, pretty close seconds, and then Dallas and maybe Tampa if you want. So because Vancouver's playing on the road, Vancouver 2, their second line is going to be my number one option tonight. And I believe I already have that added over here. Vancouver 2. And I'll go to Daily Faceoff. Go to the Canucks line combos. I'm looking for who they have projected for line 2, Joshua, Miller, and Garland. And then I want to see if there's any power play correlation between those three guys. Joshua, Miller, Garland. Garland and Miller play on power play line 1. So I might look to play those two together. And then maybe you can fit in Quinn Hughes, or you can play Dakota Joshua if you need to save money. So I'm looking to start with Miller, Garland, and one or both of Dakota Joshua or Quinn Hughes. Again, I have no problem playing 4-man stacks on really any size slate. Now, I've talked about my reasoning before, I think in my first NHL research video, but essentially you're hoping that your team scores at least 4 goals. And if your team scores four goals, there's no reason 4 members of your stack can get multiple points. So there's really nothing wrong. And this can be a nice way to get leverage, as I think general consensus is you should play 3-man stacks. But there's nothing wrong with playing a 4th guy in there. So Vancouver 2 is my first target. And then Toronto's at home, and they have the second highest targetability score. But again, Toronto, Dallas, and New Jersey are so close that Toronto 1, Dallas 1, New Jersey 2 are going to be my next 3 targets. So Vancouver 2 is a clear top target, and then fit in what you can here between those 3 lines. And then there was no one that stood out as far as good shot blocking matchups. So when I say good shot blocking matchups, I'm using Money Puck's website here. And on their graph, I'm changing the 2 axes to shots blocked by team and shots blocked by opponent. So I'm looking for what teams block a lot of shots and what teams get their shots blocked a lot. And I'm looking for anytime those 2 things meet. So if there's a team that gets their shot blocked a lot and there's a team up here that's above average at blocking shots, I'm going to look for cheap defensemen that block shots to fill out my roster. Now, unfortunately, tonight, we don't really have any of that. So Florida and Carolina aren't playing. None of these top teams up here that block a lot of shots are playing. So we're looking for some slightly above average matchups. Now we do have New Jersey's playing tonight, and they get their shots blocked above average. So do Seattle, so does Dallas, so does Edmonton. But as far as teams that block shots above average, going up against any of those opponents, we have the Rangers that are right at average, and we have the Maple Leafs that are slightly above average, going against teams that get their shots blocked more than average. So those are the only 2 places that I was looking for cheap shot blocking defensemen. Now the nice thing is Toronto has a lot of options. So we have 4 Toronto defensemen all between 3K and 5 Toronto defensemen between 2,600 and 3,400. Timmins blocks the fewest shots, but he is, or at least he was last game, on power play 1 for Toronto. And again, they're one of the best offenses to target. So you can get Timmins, who has slightly better than average shot blocking upside tonight, plus power play 1 exposure at 3,400 is a pretty good deal. And then if you really need savings, you can drop all the way down. I don't know if his name is Benoit or Benoit, but he's just over min price. I believe he was last game on Toronto's top defensive pairing. Let's take a look. Yeah. And over his last 5 games, he's playing about 15 minutes a game. He's blocked 8 shots, so roughly a block and a half per game. If he can get you 3 blocks at essentially min salary, you're very happy. You get the block shot bonus. He gets that little red fire emblem, and you're feeling good about playing him. But again, pretty much all the Toronto defensemen are in play, except for Giordano. He's got to be like 85 years old, not worth rostering. But the rest of them, they have merit, either the shot blocking or their power play 1, or maybe in Timmins' case, a little bit of both. And then you can also go to Braden Schneider for the Rangers. He's been blocking a lot of shots, and he's in a slightly plus shot blocking matchup. So let's look at Schneider over the last 5 games. Playing 19 minutes per game, 10 blocks with the added bonus of 7 shots. So he's averaging, over the last 5, 3 shots plus blocks, which is really good for someone at, 3K? Yeah. So if I'm stacking tonight, starting with Vancouver 2, probably using 1 or 2, maybe, of these cheap defensemen and seeing what I can fit in from those other 3 lines. Toronto 1, New Jersey 2, or Dallas 1. Keeping in mind, you prefer anyone that has power play correlation from those extra lines. And then finally, whatever goalie you're not stacking against, feel free to use. Goalies I treat kind of like pitchers in these tournaments on DraftKings, close to last man in. Whatever you're not playing, then use the goalie in that game. All right, I think that pretty much covers everything for tonight. Again, I will update this sheet as we get confirmation for who's starting in goal, and it might change some of those targetability scores. Although it doesn't matter who's in goal for Arizona, Vancouver is going to come out as my top stack for tonight. Okay, hope that helps, and good luck tonight.